Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, a free site, bettingangle.us, a free site. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Let me point out that this is a post-fight video concerning the Makhmudov Kabayel fight. I believe it's very important for people handicapping the heavyweight division. Now, I made a pre-fight members-only video and got undeservedly lucky. Look, I'm not ashamed to say when I won when I shouldn't win. And now we're in the penthouse. The recommended bet in that members-only video was Kabayel simply to win at, I got a 560 to 1, right? By the time the fight started, it was 6 to 1. Not the bet I got. Understand the market actually flooded in for the favorite against Kabayel with the under 5.5 rounds. Now, while I expected Makhmudov to win the fight, as I said in the pre-fight video, and while I was hoping to get a prop that I was unable to get, that the fight didn't go the distance, believe it or not, in a fight where I picked the wrong guy and didn't get the prop I wanted, and I mentioned this in the pre-fight video, believe it or not, both halves of the bet hit. Right? This confirms what I believe to be true. How you structure a bet is crucial. The structure gave us both fighters by stoppage before the midway point of the 6th round, as well as the more skilled, but I thought lighter hitting fighter simply to win at huge odds, better than a 5.5 to 1. So, bang, bang, you won on both. That's a lot more beer for us during this holiday season. Now, if you get one takeaway from this video, it should be that Kabayel is a major heavyweight. He belongs in the conversation when you come up with your short list of heavyweights who have a viable chance at winning the title. Now, I believe Makhmudov has an A-level right hand in the pocket, right? Just like the right hand that Anthony Joshua showed in the Wallin fight, which surprised me. Right? Makhmudov, for all the awkwardness, for all the leaning on you and you're leaning on him and the fight seems to have gone off the rails, his bread and butter is in the pocket at short range, not a lot of ring coverage, at short range. He's an A-level puncher. So Kabayel, the more skilled boxer, incredibly, the first 2 rounds of the fight, is able to stay outside of the pocket when he needs to. Now, this is a unique skill, folks, because a lot of people don't have the foot speed. More importantly, a lot of people don't have the coordination to get in and out of the pocket. A lot of people don't have the knowledge base, quite frankly, to figure out, hey, Makhmudov is in a position where he can't throw his A-level right hand in the pocket. So this gives me the opportunity to jump in the pocket, do what I need to do, and then to get out of the pocket. So when he throws that punch, I'm outside. He's looking for me. He can't find me where he wants me to be. Now understand, Kabayel is so skilled that he's not running. He's circling Makhmudov. Right? This is a movement fight. If you are fortunate enough to look at a film of the fight, and I used to have it posted in my favorites folder, I believe YouTube took that down. But if you're fortunate enough to look at a film of the fight, what I want you to do for at least the first 2 rounds is to ignore the punches. Just look at the movement. you're going to notice that Kabayel, in addition to being two-handed with a multiplicity of punches in both hands, right, you're going to notice that Kabayel has the timing down. He can get in and out. He can move around. Understand, I don't believe Zhili Zhang has this level of movement, right? You have a lot of fighters, Deontay Wilder, who surprised me with his level of movement against Joseph Parker. But I don't believe Deontay Wilder can move as adeptly as this guy can, right? This guy's fighting the bigger hitter. He's engaging with the bigger hitter. In other words, this isn't a fight where he's just running and hiding. No, he's engaging with Makhmudov. But he's doing it in a way where he never has to linger in the pocket. Right? His footwork, his coordination is that level. Right? Another guy like this, by the way, is Usyk. Well, let me just say that what I believe Kabayel is doing the first two rounds is to actually figure out the angles that a more limited Makhmudov can operate from. Right? He's figuring out if there's a safe harbor where he can set up shop away from Makhmudov's A-level right hand, again, which lacks ring coverage, which lacks the ability to hit you from long distance. Now, let me point out, Kabayel has a great defensive move, right? This is a variation on Tyson Fury sticking his hand out and using it as a range finder against Deontay Wilder in their second fight. Kabayel starts to put his left hand on Makhmudov's shoulder to get his arm in the way of the punch that Makhmudov is throwing with his right hand. Right? It's really a defensive move. This is different than a rangefinder where you're sticking your hand out and you just want to make sure you're too far away from Deontay Wilder without throwing a jab, right? You should throw a lazy jab. You should hide it so that it looks like you're throwing a punch. Now that's Tyson Fury's move. This move to me is more advanced. This is where I'm fighting a guy who has a big right hand. And what I do is every time I see him shifting his body weight to throw that right hand, I get my hand in the way. I understand the right hand, and Makhmudov can throw an uppercut. Here, Kabayel is gambling. He sees Makhmudov loading up to throw a right hand. He just sticks his hand out. So Makhmudov's right has to collide with Kabayel's left hand. Right, folks? He takes the sting out of Makhmudov's punches. More importantly, even as Makhmudov is throwing the punch, Kabayel is able to move. Right? The movement is exemplary. Eventually, Kabayel figures out the lay of the land, and he decides to stay on Makhmudov's left side. If you're thinking of a clock where Makhmudov is 12 o'clock, just think of Kabayel at being at 5 p.m., right? At 5 o'clock. That's where he sets up shop. Right? Now, let me just say, Kabayel then finds the punch that changes the fight. Believe it or not, from 5 o'clock on Makhmudov's left side, it is Kabayel's left hook to the body. Right, folks? It's actually beautiful to watch. This is a guy moving. He's on Makhmudov's left side. He has the sequencing down. In other words, he knows when Makhmudov is going to do certain things. For a fighter who has the sequencing down, and I keep saying here to a lot of resistance that he's one of the more complicated fighters in boxing. I want people to look at the UK's Chris Eubank, the sub. Right here, Kabayel understands. He's over on the left side. He knows when Makhmudov is turning to try to find him, and he knows how to step across Makhmudov's body and to throw left hooks to the body. Right? It's actually great stuff. Understanding that Makhmudov has a great right hand. He's crossing across the right hand to throw left hooks to Makhmudov's body. Right? The body attack changes the match. Let me also point out too that Kabayel throws a variety of punches with both hands. So Kabayel, from the left side of Makhmudov, also is able to throw right hands up top. So he has a multi-angle approach. Right? With his left hand, he's going to Makhmudov's body. He's throwing it under Makhmudov's elbow. He's accurate with it. With his right hand, he's going up top on Makhmudov. He's doing it in such a way that Makhmudov can't find him. Makhmudov also can't handle the body shots. So let me just say this. After getting dropped the first time, Makhmudov is so desperate to stop the body attacks that he starts bending at the waist. Right? This is the big bad wolf. This is the guy who's supposed to win this fight by KO. This is the guy who's going off at better than a 9-1 as a favorite. Right? His body starts getting riddled and he can't handle it. He doesn't move as well as Kabayel. He's not going to learn during the fight how to do so. So he starts bending at the waist to hide his body. But understand, once you have a guy with an A-level, short right hand, bending at the waist, he's out of his comfort zone. How's he going to throw that straight right hand with leverage when he's bending at the waist? This would be like taking away Deontay Wilder's body. And then Wilder decides he's going to bend over to prevent you from hitting the body. How's Wilder then going to get any gas on that straight right hand? Folks, you actually have that situation in this fight. So understand, as Makhmudov starts bending to hide his body, and as he changes his strategy to try to catch Kabayel with uppercuts, here's where you really see Kabayel's mastery. Kabayel is great at reading him. He's able to jump back out of the pocket, has excellent legs. Don't underestimate his legs. He jumps out of the pocket when needed. Makhmudov isn't close enough to land his uppercut. Understand, Kabayel again jumps out of the pocket. Makhmudov throws the uppercut, misses. Kabayel then jumps back in the pocket and is able to land more body shots. In other words, as Makhmudov is trying to hide his body, Kabayel is still hunting him to the body. Right? Makhmudov goes down a second time. He gets up, but at this point, he's too diminished and he's finished. Right? He gets finished off by a further body attack. So what does this mean? This means that the bet structure carried us through and netted us undeservedly wins on both halves of the play. In the pre-fight video, when I was bemoaning the fact that I had hoped to get more rounds on the under than 5.5, right? I was of the mindset that the only guy who would have a shot early in the fight to get a stoppage was Makhmudov. Understand, Kabayel here is so dominant. He not only lands the more meaningful shots in the fight, he not only wins the rounds, he not only gets the multiple knockdowns, folks, he ends the fight before the midway point of the 6th round. So you hit on a plus 560. Those are the odds I got. Other gamblers got better odds. They got 6-1. You hit on the 6-1 with Kabayel simply to win, plus 550 in my case. And you hit on the minus 130, that the fight would not make it to the midway point of the 6th round. So tell us the odds you got and how you played the match in the comment section of this YouTube video. Let me just say this about Kabayel, right? And he's the European champion. When you stumble into a fighter like this, who was this much of an underdog, against a guy who was not champion. Granted, Makhmudov was unbeaten going into the fight. But when you stumble into a guy like this, I'm just telling you, it takes the world a few fights to catch up. Right now, I don't believe, based on my review of some earlier Kabayel fights, that Kabayel knows how to keep a fight slow-paced. Kabayel fights tend to escalate into shootouts. In an earlier recent fight, Kabayel actually gets dropped and has to get off the canvas to win the fight. Now that's crucial, because in Kabayel fights, while the highlights may show a smooth boxer, you need to always have in your head, particularly if he's facing a puncher, that the fight's not going to go the distance. Let me also say, too, that because of the footwork, understand this is going to allow him to do things other guys can't do. There is a moment in this fight where he starts throwing right hooks to the body. In other words, when we say two-handed, this guy has an assortment of shots with both hands. So if you're looking at a guy, Joe Joyce, for example, let's say I'm looking at Joe Joyce, and I'm looking at that Joe Joyce Zhili Zhang fight, where Zhili Zhang, the first one, Zhili Zhang is landing at will, straight lefts, right? Understand, Kabayel has a very good jab. You understand that Kabayel can throw a straight left, right? Because of the foot movement, Kabayel is unlikely to be unable to avoid Joe Joyce's jab like Daniel Dubois was, right? So Joe Joyce would be at risk against this opponent, right? You would expect the two guys to come to the middle of the ring, and you would expect Joe Joyce to have a problem finding Kabayel. But you would expect Kabayel to not be able to slow down an aggressive Joe Joyce, right? So in a fight like that, my primary bet would be that the fight doesn't go the distance. Then I would read the odds. I would know something the casino might not know, right? The casino knows a lot. I'm talking about the public, right? The casino sets odds based on what the public thinks, right? I would understand that while there's a Joe Joyce bandwagon, right? After all, he was the mandatory challenger before he loses to Zhili Zhang. I would understand that he's fighting a guy who is far better than advertised, right? Look into Kabayel's past. You're going to find out he beat Derek Chisora already. Now he has stopped Makhmudov, right? This is a guy who moves extremely well. This is a guy who can handle an opponent who's too front foot heavy, right? There's an optical illusion going on here where because Kabayel is smooth, you actually have to look at his feet to realize how much ground he's moving, right? This isn't Ali where the guy comes in and the way he moves, you know he's an athlete, right? He draws you into his movement. This isn't the Ali who faces Liston. Now, this is different. This is the smooth operator who you suddenly notice he's figured out the timing on Makhmudov's right hand, and it's a lethal right hand, to the point where he can slide across the front of Makhmudov and land wicked left hooks to the body. And the left hooks don't look that wicked. You only know they're wicked by Makhmudov's reaction to them. They literally take the wind out of him. Right? You wouldn't even consider Kabayel to be a body hunter. But then you start to realize that in a fight where an opponent's body is open, he can be. Dangerous fighter. I didn't realize he was this good. Right? He's caused me to rethink a lot. You're likely to get great odds on Kabayel, Ajit Kabayel. Remember the name. For at least the next 2 fights, simply because the public doesn't know him that well. Right? Andy Ruiz has faster hands. Andy Ruiz is a combination puncher. The open question here is whether Andy would be able to keep up with Kabayel's foot speed, with Kabayel's versatility. Right? Kabayel would not have to run as much as Anthony Joshua did in the rematch against Ruiz. This is a guy who can hover. Right? Keep an eye on him. My prediction is he's going to pull a few upsets. This is a guy, quite frankly, and granted, he's a righty, Usyk's a lefty. Let's be clear on that. But this is a guy who would give Usyk problems, because this is a guy who'd be able to keep up with Usyk as Usyk moves around the ring. And this is a guy who feints. He gets Makhmudov completely off his skis. Right? This isn't a slugger guy who would find Usyk to be too elusive. Right? This is the guy who'd be feinting with Usyk. Both guys would have a lot to think about. Understand, too, I still believe Usyk went down on a legitimate body shot against Daniel Dubois. If you go back in the amateurs, you'll notice that Arthur Beterbiev, the unbeaten champ at 175 pounds, beats Usyk off body shots. Right, folks? Ajit Kabayel just beat Makhmudov off body shots. Right? This is a guy who would test Usyk's body while not being there for Usyk to hit. Assuming, of course, and it's a big assumption, that Kabayel can deal with a slick southpaw. That's an open question. Anyway, that's the fight I saw. Let me know how you saw the fight. Right? Understand the way boxing operates. You have guys who are, holding secondary titles, right? In this case, Kabayel has the European title. But you don't know how they're going to do against big sluggers, right? Who have dramatic highlights. Makhmudov, veteran fighter in his mid-30s. Right? If you go through his highlights, big time puncher. Right? When you're taking the other side of the play, the guy who doesn't have the punch, who's getting by on boxing knowledge, slickness, foot speed, having a variety of punches in both hands, those fighters, as we found out in the recent Wilder fight against Joe Parker, those fighters tend to be undervalued, underappreciated, in the odds, underrated. keep an eye on Kabayel. He's on my list. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. Give us your comments on the fight. Tell us what you expected. Tell us how you played it in the comment section of this YouTube video. Thanks for stopping by.